Through the rain, through the spray, Lando Norris fights to win the British Grand Prix. Jonathan Green is still standing and saluting.
Well, land of hope and glory.
Yeah, there you go. This is Jon Massengale. That's Jonathan Green. We got Bob Varsha and Chris Medland to be with us here shortly. But yes, Lando.
Right now.
There's Chris. I'm not even used to having you, Chris. I didn't even check. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I tuned in just in time for Johnny Green's time there. But I've positioned myself by the podium exit, essentially, where all the drivers and team bosses are going to come through. So I'm sure I'll just lose you guys soon. But while I had you, I thought I'd pipe in and say hello.
Hey, Chris, while we do have you, what is the feeling amongst Journey, i.e. you and the boys and the girls, about whether Piastri's been given a tough time?
The initial impression is no, to be honest. I think he's been a bit unlucky with the timing of something here. But I think because the safety car was coming in, he did something that he's not meant to do at that point. So I can see why he says, I was doing that on multiple laps. But he accelerated. He's so close to the finish of the lap there. And he's accelerated firmly for a while that I think it's understandable that behind, cars might think it's the restart. And therefore, you've got to go with him. And then once you've restarted, you can't hit the brakes. So I don't think it was his intention, but he kind of backed himself into a corner with that one. And yeah, once we saw the replay and you heard the onboard of his accelerating and then braking, I did think was going to be...
we're losing you now, buddy. The crowd is surrounding you and you're using up all the bandwidth. Sorry, Chris.
I do think he'll take that.
We lost him.
I get the gist of it, though.
Bob Varsha, welcome to the show, buddy.
Yeah, he basically said that it was fair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What do you think, Bob?
Yeah, I think so. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Yes, we can. We got you loud and clear.
Great. I think I've got this whole system figured out right now. Don't ever put me on a spaceship. Anyway, I thought it was a fabulous race. I really did. Lots of passing, lots of horrible circumstances everybody had to deal with. I can't recall. I'd have to see the data. I don't think there was a single driver that wasn't off the track at one point or another. That's how difficult the conditions were. And that's where the team's shown. Some got the numbers absolutely right about what tire to get on when. So kudos especially to Sauber, who did great work with Nico Hulkenberg to take him from 19th place to his first career podium in his 239th race. Just awesome stuff. But watching it all play out, obviously Red Bull struggled. Ferrari struggled just a bit. But, that's the tolerance. You had to be on exactly the right tire, on exactly the right lap, and then handled by the driver. And I thought it was just great fun to watch.
Oh, yeah, I did too. Jonathan said in the middle of the race, you said, "What, Jonathan, this is kind of a weird race." And I thought the same thing. It was a little bit weird. Hey, Chris, let me check your connection. It sounds like you still can hear us cleanly.
Oh, yeah, I'm getting you.
It's a one-way connection. I don't know what's going on, Chris, but hey, Casey, let me know if you've got the Horner interview. I know you've been juggling a lot of balls over there. Yeah, he's yeah, sorry, Chris. You're going to have to find Wi-Fi, buddy.
Tape them and send them.
Yeah, take them.
You'd think in one of the greatest industrialized nations in the world, they'd have this sort of thing figured out. I remember when Nextel got sponsorship of NASCAR, and they went to the Daytona 500 for the very first time, and they found out there wasn't enough cell service, so they had to bring in trucks with cell dishes on them. It was incredible.
Yeah, we saw that in Vegas. I think T-Mobile did the same thing, except they did it ahead of time. They knew.
Right, they knew it was coming.
Yeah, but look, this was really pretty amazing. A lot of stats coming out of this thing. Number one, Lando's first victory at home, Lando's first back-to-back victories, which now puts him. I haven't seen the official math, but my math said it was about 8 points. Let's see if that is true.
I think it is, isn't it? Yeah,
because it was 15 before, and drum roll, please, 8 points. Now between Oscar Piastri with 234, Lando Norris 226.
Nice.
Well, now you know why Piastri was so upset about the penalty, because he knew what was coming. And he even tried to sell the team on switching positions.
Yeah.
Just because they thought the penalty was unfair. But I'm with Martin Brundle. You can't penalize Norris for something that happened to Piastri.
Exactly.
No,
exactly.
that's true.
All right. Well, let's hear from Christian Horner, Red Bull team boss, because Chris caught up with him just moments ago.
I've got Christian Horner with me here, and Christian, 5th place today after starting from pole position. There was a lot that could go wrong in a race like that. How did it get away from you?
Well, look, I think first of all, the rain, which wasn't forecast. When we were starting on a very low downforce setup, that was always going to be a big ask. I thought Max did really well to lead the race initially, and it was unfortunate at the restart. Oscar jumped on the brakes. That caught Max out. Obviously, Oscar got a penalty for it, but it put Max on the wrong part of the track, and then obviously a spin which he recovered well at the restart. And then you could see how difficult the car was in wet and damp conditions. But as the circuit dried, his pace improved, and he was able to recover to 5th, in the end. So, frustrating, but it is what it is.
Is it just one of those, you look back at hindsight yesterday and the decisions you made then, if you'd have known the conditions you get today would have been different?
Look, I thought the team did a good job yesterday. We trimmed the car out. We knew it was a risk. If there was rain, the forecasts were all saying a bit of rain in the morning, but the good old English summer had us over there. Looked beautiful. Now, if the race had been an hour later, it would have been a different story.
And what about Yuki? Was he on the same setup? Because he looked like he struggled again.
Yeah, same setup, same issue. But one of those things. But well done to Nico Hulkenberg on a podium. So pleased for him.
And just finally, what do you guys take away from these two races? You brought some new parts. They looked like they were showing fruition yesterday.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we got a pole position here yesterday. Today's race hasn't worked out for the reasons we just discussed. But we'll keep swinging.
Looking forward for some time away from the paddock and all the questions.
Yeah, that'd be good.
All right, thank you.
I don't understand something here.
What's that, sir?
I listened to a rather not lengthy, but a rather in-depth interview with Christian Horner last night on Sky, where he described that they were going in a different direction with Yuki Tsunoda and his setup to help him. He did some physio down on the south coast to clear his head after what was a disaster in Austria. And basically, and I wrote it down at the time, Horner in that interview described the car as a bit of a diva. And therefore that is why they're trying to help Yuki go in a completely different, direction of setup, because he can't do what Verstappen can and nobody else can. But then he says in that interview you just heard there that he had the same setup.
Huh.
I don't get it.
Well, Yuki did go in a different direction. He went from 11th to 15th today.
Yeah. Well, and he mentioned, and I'm not defending Christian Horner here, but Yuki did have a different setup. It just so happens that Max had that same setup. Okay. I am surprised to hear Christian Horner say, we were told it wasn't going to rain.
Yeah.
We heard Zach Brown before the race saying, we think more rain is coming. Where are you getting your information, Christian?
Yeah, I was going to say, well, Chris was telling us exactly what was going on before the race started.
Right.
So,
and if we're going to start finding drivers for cursing in interviews, we ought to start finding team principals for saying it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should find everybody for saying it is what it is. I'm done with that phrase.
Now get off my lawn. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Yuki Tsunoda went backwards today. What a contrast. Yuki was the final car finishing this race, Jonathan. And once again, Max Verstappen, fourth today? So
Writ large is another one that should be thrown out as well. Don't like writ large.
Verstappen was 5th.
Yeah,
fifth. Sorry, yeah.
But a little bit of historic precedence there. Alfa Romeo won the first ever race at Silverstone, and the team that was Alfa Romeo got a podium finally.
Ah, there you go.
Alpha sponsorship. I don't denigrate any of those drivers and their skills, given the conditions we saw.
Incredible.
When there was spewing water everywhere. They couldn't see where they were going at 100 and God knows how many miles an hour. Yuki went backwards. That'll happen when you can't see where you're going and you're being attacked left and right.
Yeah, we made the point that it always shows on a day like today, 5 of the 6 rookies out within the first 20 laps.
Did we ever find out what knocked Antonelli out?
Uh,
I know Cole Pizzo
Antonelli
had the car locked.
didn't he have the diffuser?
Yeah, he
got
Oh, he had
hit.
diffuser
got
damage
hit from
getting
behind.
hit by. Yeah, that's true.
And that diffuser
That
was
must be it.
completely demolished, wasn't it? It was completely
Yeah.
taken apart. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, how about Ollie Behrman, who was going backwards more than he was going forwards, was involved in a couple of collisions, and yet still comes home 11th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
I think they should award him an honorary point for trying hard.
Well, not only that, I think he's at least one. Like you said, Bob, everybody was off track. He either spun
Yeah.
or went off track for sure, I know. So, yeah.
Well, he and his teammate clobbered each other too, so that was not.
Yeah, that's right. They
elegant.
both spun in unison, didn't they?
Yeah. Hey, let's think about something else with Nico Hulkenberg, is that Hamilton was gaining on him. It's on his bumper, and Hamilton spun trying to catch
Catch
and
him, yeah.
pass.
Yeah.
So there's even more kudos for Nico Hulkenberg. He sounded emotional
Well,
on the
I
radio,
guess-
didn't he?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
it's become the sort of sadly the butt of many jokes actually, and of course
Yeah.
it gets brought up as a stat all the time. The only
Right.
driver not to have scored a podium.
Well,
but he won
How
Le
far
Mans.
can it go?
We can erase that one. And he's
I guess you race 239 times, you learn a thing or
Yeah, no kidding.
he doesn't seem to be slowing down at all, does he?
No, and
Yeah,
you've got
and
to think
I-
that Cadillac. Audi are going to be very, very pleased with their purchase.
Maybe you just accidentally.
I would
are you
think
saying?
so.
Are you starting a rumor
Yeah.
there? Was that on purpose, John?
Yeah, kind of. That was just slip that in
yeah,
there.
go for it.
You were talking about the spray, Bob. There were at one point
Yeah.
later in the race, before it got too dry, I loved seeing the cars. Somebody went through the spray. It must have been close to 200 miles an hour, and I loved
Mhm.
the visual because it looks like you could see the air. It looked like
Yeah.
a wind tunnel smoke.
Mhm.
You could see the air
Right.
contouring around the car. Because the mist through it.
Yep.
It was really,
Mhm.
really fascinating. I want to go back and find that later, but I thought that was cool too. K-Mag was in the garage
Yes,
cheering on
Somewhat
his old teammate.
appropriate. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought
He'll
that
be
was
happy. He'll be very happy for the Hulk for sure.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Let me squeeze in a word from a sponsor because coming up soon, don't miss the FIE World Endurance Championship return to Circuit of the Americas with the Lone Star Le Mans, September 5th and through the 7th. And this is witness the greatest lineup of horsepower featuring world-class brands, including Ferrari, Porsche, McLaren, and many more. All of them this year, probably. This September, enjoy 6 hours of racing featuring some of the greatest car manufacturers in the world at Circuit of the Americas. This year, there will be not one, but 2 Cadillac V Series, the .R Series hypercars, gunning for glory in the high-caliber field, featuring Formula One champions Jenson Button and 4-time Champion Car champion Sebastian Bourdais, with 36 cars from big-name brands Alpine, Aston Martin, Peugeot, BMW, Cadillac, Corvette, Ferrari, Ford, Lexus, McLaren, and on, including Toyota. The world's premier racing championship is ready to bring the spirit of the legendary 24 Hours of Le Mans to Texas. You can see all the action at Circuit of the Americas starting Friday, September 5th, and get your tickets at thecircuit.com or the World Endurance Championship website. All right, let's take a quick break. You're listening to Speed City F1 back after these messages. All right, you guys. Hey, Casey, I got in a live read because I know we have a bunch of them today, so I got in one before the break. So, all right, we got lots of stuff going on. Bill Ricker, I'll start at the top. Yeah, Bill, write your congressman. It wasn't us. SiriusXM was a little slow to get the race going, or should I say a lot slow. Yeah. What else? I'll get off of that. Mike Bowles, Oscar's driving like Sonny. There you go. TW or Tim. I should call you Tim. I know your name, TW. How about the Hulk? Yes, we're all excited about the Hulk. Chris, you want to do a mic check while we got a break here? All righty then. Just jump in, Chris, if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. I was just trying it. Is that not gone well?
No,
It is
Good.
that time came through, but came through like, ultra fast talking like that.
Oh, the catch up.
Yeah, the catch up. That's it. and you're still dropping out, dude. I hate to say it. It's just, I would suggest either find Wi-Fi or go get interviews because you're still dropping out.
I just want to try,
Yeah,
and I will send them.
Okay.
yeah, because we can't even hear that. I've heard you say I will send them. So Tim says, wonder what the odds were for Hulk to podium. Yeah, Vegas,
Ooh.
that would have been good, really.
From 19. That's insane.
I know, from 19th.
Yep.
Todd Dauber says he's surprised Oscar expected the team to switch the order. I mean, although I agree with that,
Yeah.
but you heard Zach Brown. If you heard of the broadcast, he was with his driver. All right, here we go. Pierre Gasly finishing P6.
I know he's having actually not a bad season.
Yeah.
For as turbulent times are at the moment with Alpine.
Keep the music going, Casey. We're rocking out in here. So Lance Stroll looked like he was on for a podium for a while. And what did I say about Lance Stroll's podium?
You said it would be what?
It could be the one if he'd made a podium. It could have been the first of many because next year new cars. Adrian Newey designed car. Wait, could you see it? Lance Stroll champion next year. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
All right, let's be careful now.
You're clasping a little there, John. I think your med's wearing off a little bit.
No, it hasn't
I could
worn
see
off.
Lance Stroll reserve driver, but I don't see him as world champion.
But good day for the Aston Martin. Stroll finishing P7.
Both in the points.
Yeah, but I think they both lost points right at the end, which could have been a lot better day. Right at the end, they both lost.
Remember, it's their home Grand Prix too. I mean, they're literally stones throw.
A half mile away.
Greeny, I liked it.
That was a case of, he got on the right tire too soon. He was essentially the guinea pig to go to slicks.
Well, he went to soft, though, as well. He went to a soft.
Yeah, he did. Mm-hmm. And, there were too many laps for him to go. And he got caught by the guys on fresher tires.
Yeah. Greeny, I was going to say, I was watching green on green, watching you watch green on green, watching green on green.
Yep.
With the Stroll versus Hulkenberg battle there.
It's pretty cool.
Yep. George Russell did not do well. George Russell did not do good with the tire strategy today.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit of a genius stroke to go. He came straight in. He did the formation lap, started from the pit lane and went on hards, which was bold, I have to say, given that he had a primo starting position. But I think it was a gamble worth taking. You never know. It could have been. I mean, you could have easily predicted a pile up at turn 1 or at Copse first lap in that race because it was really dicey.
Yeah, because he started P4 and finished P10, so the gamble did not pay.
Oh, it did not. No.
But yes. I mean, look, you when you win some, you lose some in that situation for sure.
Sure.
But he was struggling. George was. He. Yeah. When it started to rain again, he got on the radio and said, "Brilliant."
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
it was the last thing he wanted.
Just jumped on slicks, and then the rain starts coming down.
Excellent.
Driver of the day, no drum roll needed for this one, Nico Hulkenberg.
Yeah,
49% of the.
Yeah, I think he won that hands down.
Yeah,
which
is good. That shows you people appreciate what he's gone through.
Yeah, no doubt.
I tell you what, are we going to be looking back in December from Abu Dhabi and going, boy, Austria and Britain really made it for Norris?
McLaren?
Yeah, first 2 in a row ever in his career.
In his career, yeah. That's pretty impressive. We had to look that up, but
I didn't. I had to confirm it.
Sorry.
What are the odds on whether McLaren will win the Constructors' Championship again with 5 races to go in the season?
Yeah. I mean, they've already kind of wrapped that up. That's a done deal.
But, we heard Oscar Piastri complaining about all this, which is, the first time we've heard, he wasn't overly emotional, of course.
No, but he was, that's as accurate as we've seen him.
Yeah, but he was cranky for sure. And I think he was just as cranky about the fact that Lando Norris is now within 8 points.
Oh, yeah.
2 in a row. He's lost a nice lead. What was it? It was well up into the 20s. It was almost
Well,
a
hang
race.
on a minute. Look at his last 3 races. He was crashed out by his teammate in Canada.
Well, yeah.
He got beaten by him in Austria, and now he's been beaten by him again.
Yeah, actually, he didn't get crashed out, did he?
He got crashed. That was
Yeah.
Lando. crashed
Lando
out
hit
of
him.
That's right. I was thinking which race would Lando hit and crashed himself out?
Pretty much both. Well, he took them both out, really, didn't he?
So, but
Each
yeah, I
of the
think
McLaren drivers' future is in their own hands. They've got the car and the team.
Oh, yeah.
Now they just need to do the deal.
yeah, for sure. But I think that could have been a big reason why he was not happy, because he can see the championship tightening back up.
Yeah.
And and Lando definitely has the momentum.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lando's got the momentum with 2 races and 2 wins in a row. I mean, it's got to buoy your confidence no matter how you won it today, right?
Sure. And coming up, Hungary and Spa. Not sure who favors those circuits.
Spa first. Yeah.
Spa first, yeah. End of July. So a little bit of time off now.
Yep. And I was thinking about when Piastri got that penalty, right? When he got the penalty, he went in and did a pit stop, and it was a really slow pit stop, 4.6 seconds. So he was in the pit lane for 14.6 seconds, which is a lifetime in Formula One. And Max Verstappen came out ahead of him. He was not happy about that. Nobody, McLaren.
Well, he served his penalty, didn't he?
Right, that's what I'm saying. It was 4.6 plus 10, so it was 14.6. So, but Max took advantage of the slow pit stop, the 4.6.
Yep.
I think that was probably what made the difference to let Max by.
Yeah, it was like I said, it was a weird Grand Prix. There was a lot. I was sitting there scribbling notes. There was a lot to take, and a lot of it made no sense. Well, by the end of the race, but it certainly kept you busy following that or trying to follow that.
Yeah, and I like your emotional explanation or exclamation whenever Max spun coming out of the
He's
safety.
human after all.
He is a human.
Yeah. I mean,
We just don't see Max make so rare like that.
And it was cause and effect. It was like, I mean, to be honest, Piastri had achieved what he set out to do, which was to slow Max down, and not having the temperature, and you needed to go into the first corner, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and Max was driving like Carlos Sainz Sr. for a good bit of the race there. Did you
He
see
did a
all
lot
that?
of sideways action, yeah.
He was sliding. It was actually kind of subtle. He was just sliding across. He wasn't, a bunch of tail out. He just looked like he was sliding across.
Yeah. Well, that's his strength. Is he likes a really loose rear end in the car because he can control the when the back end steps out. That's one of his strengths. Other Red Bull drivers have trouble with in the car because it's set up for Max's taste.
Yeah. And speaking of cars spinning off track, how about the dual perfectly synchronized pirouettes by the Haas team when they came together late in the race? It was almost like that. It was like a special effect. They spun the first spin and then they spun the second, came out perfectly. It was actually very fascinating to watch.
I don't think Gene appreciated it, but okay.
No, but it was fascinating to watch. Hey, Behrman ended up finishing 11th. So, what else, Greeny? What else?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some of the stories that perhaps. I mean, I hate to bring this up, but Colapinto again.
Yeah.
Yep. This is becoming inevitable. And I saw Flavio's reaction yesterday after qualifying when he spun then. And it's just I don't want to knock a man when he's down. And I know Franco pretty good. He came to New Zealand, nice kid.
Yeah, you got to spend some time. with him,
he's a good kid. And I think he's a very good racing driver, but he's just not performing. That's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And if we're going to be cutthroat with Lawson and we're going to be cutthroat with Tsunoda, I think we've got to look at Colapinto.
Jack Doohan.
Yeah, and I think the obvious thing is to put Jack back in the car, but the controversial thing, which I believe that Flavio would do, is potentially put Bottas or Perez. Just because Gasly is scoring points and they're at the bottom of the thing. And if they could get another point scorer in there, that's a lot of money saved if they could get up the board a bit.
Sure.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of commercial sense, too, because they announced the Claro Mexican sponsorship for Colapinto this week. and it's one of Sergio Perez's personal sponsors. So yeah, he could just slide right into that deal. And speaking of crashes, how about Liam Lawson? I mean, he made contact with Esteban Ocon, I think, and I was astonished at the force and violence with which the Racing Bulls car crashed. I mean, he skidded for a long way and then, hit the fence backwards. It was a huge hit, and it was really surprising there was that much energy involved, at least to me.
Yeah, and I laughed there when you said that because I was literally about to read that out of my notes because it was Sonoda that
caused it.
That pushed Ocon, who then hit Lawson, who then spun. And
Ocon,
yeah.
And Hadjar's incident was just as brutal because he hit the back of Antonelli and then just veered off backwards into the wall as well.
Yeah, and he stuck him into the corner like that. And both of that side of the car, both wheels bent up, tires ripped off. So that was pretty violent. And think about how high speed you have here at Silverstone. We're kind of lucky that we didn't get worse than that. Well, who was it a few years ago?
Well, Michael broke his leg. Michael Schumacher broke his leg at Cops.
99.
Yeah, but even in recent history.
Oh, well, we had Guan Yu Zhou go.
Guan Yu, that's who it was.
Upside down.
Yeah.
And over the fence.
And over the fence, yeah.
Yeah, that was dramatic. Remember George Russell stopping?
Yeah.
And did he get out of the car?
He tried to help him out, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my point with all that is that we are lucky that we didn't get something worse. All right, well, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll continue to break down everything that happened at the British Grand Prix.
And I've got a story for you.
Ooh, a story. Wait for that. Okay, YouTubers, what's happening? TW Tim says Ollie was the only rookie running at the end. Make sure I didn't miss any others. We got a lot of comments here. Andy P. Hulk on the podium. There's a Sauber crew member who I'm sure had to look up the post-race brochure. There you go. Yeah, exactly. Post-race, not brochure, procedure.
Yeah.
I rest my case.
No, I didn't. So, okay, good.
Yeah, and that's the first time Sauber have had a podium since Kobayashi in 2012. Pretty impressive.
That's pretty cool.
First one for Hulkenberg personally since 2009.
Wow.
So
I'm looking at points.
I know. I was about to say.
Hey, save that for on the air. Hold on.
I'm looking at team points. There's a big
let's
change.
talk about both on the air. But Andy P says Oscar was asking the team for a flip of position, was never going to fly.
No.
Yeah. Let's see. Joe Voister Bay says they played the team orders message when he was 6 seconds back with like 6 laps. Yeah. Lando closed the gap to Oscar, Tim says. Towards the end of the tire run with a few times, so a win was not guaranteed to Oscar at any point. That's true.
Swap out Colapinto, so there you go. There's already a vote for that.
Nobody was guaranteed anything in that race.
A good point by Andy P. Red Bull Racing trimmed so much downforce out of the car that once the rain came, Max was in trouble.
Yep.
Even Max couldn't drive that car.
Yeah, and they knew it.
Hey, Tim, that's a good point. We've talked about a Starlink setup, but, we've had such a good run of it this year. This is the first time we've had this much trouble for sure this year. We've had a little bit, but by far.
I think we should get a Starlink. That'd be good.
Yeah. In fact, it's funny. I saw an ad the other day. We're down to $399.
See,
they're tiny.
It's worth it.
All right, here we go.
That's worth it.
Hi, this is Gene Haas, and this is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
In business, they say you can have better, cheaper, or faster, but you only get to pick two. What if you could have all three at the same time? That's exactly what Cohere, Thomson Reuters, and Specialized Bikes have since they upgraded to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. OCI is the blazing fast platform for your infrastructure, your database, and application development, and AI needs, where you can run any workload in a high availability, consistently high-performing environment and spend less than you would with other clouds. How is it faster? OCI's block storage gives you more operations per second. Cheaper, OCI costs up to 50% less for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Better? In test after test, OCI customers report lower latency and higher bandwidth versus other clouds. This is the cloud built for AI and all your biggest workloads. Right now, with zero commitment, try OCI for free. Head to oracle.com/formula. That's oracle.com/formula. All right. Well, we're in the break. Bob, Varsha wanted to talk about some standings and some points. What do you got, Bob?
Well, the results really took a hammer to the standings. Obviously, McLaren puts a big pile of points on the field. And as Jonathan says, they've probably done as much as they can do to clinch the defense of their constructors' title. But Ferrari will stay pretty much where they are in second place. Mercedes had a miserable weekend when they could have made up some ground on Ferrari. Red Bull obviously didn't get much done. Now, those are the four big teams. Then you've got more than 100-point gap to Williams, who picked up a couple of points, but kicked Sauber with that third-place finish for Nico Hülkenberg, is now battling Williams neck and neck for fifth place. Meanwhile, in seventh and eighth place, Racing Bulls and Aston Martin, that tie will be broken because Aston scored and Bulls did not. Then you got Haas and Alpine bringing up the rear. What did Gasly make some points? Yeah,
Gasly.
Yeah.
Well, which is why I think now when you look at the board like that and you see Alpine on last, but on 19 points, and they're not that far. They're 10 points off Haas. It is motivating for them to want to potentially change their lineup again, almost as a sort of smart move.
God, imagine Kick Sauber, who was the last year or the year before, scored 0 points.
Yeah.
Could overtake Williams for fifth in the championship in 2025.
Which would be outstanding.
Amazing stuff. Yeah.
What a great way to hand Audi a fifth place team.
God, those bottom five teams, the bottom five.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's from 11 to 55.
Yeah.
It's
Alpine could easly, if both players scored,
they could move from 10th to 6th. Yeah, maybe even 5th.
Well, it's only halfway through the season.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but McLaren almost doubling Ferrari and Mercedes. Ferrari and Mercedes only 1 point off. 210 for Ferrari, 209 for Mercedes. And Red Bull, slipping back 162. Yeah, that as and driver standings, of course, I'm just looking. Max is 155 now. He's still hanging on by his fingernails right now behind the McLaren drivers. But speaking of the McLaren drivers, Chris Medland sent in an interview with the team principal of the McLaren team, Andrea Stella. Let's hear that now.
Andrea, can I grab you while you're walking down the pit lane, Silverstone, and you can see the big sign right in front of you showing Lando Norris, race winner, a 1-2 for McLaren. How do you feel after that one?
Well, great feeling, obviously. A P1, P2 for McLaren on Grand Prix, as you say. And also a very convincing, very strong victory in difficult circumstances today. I think one of those in which you have to definitely have a shout out to the pit wall, the strategy team, race engineers, drivers, very, very accurate in assessing the situation, making good calls. All these put us in condition to lead the race. Strong drive by Oscar. Really, I want to take this lead, and he did it. And it's a shame for him that he couldn't capitalize on this great drive because of the penalty. And Lando was there. Lando drove as well, pretty much faultlessly, and took advantage of the opportunity with the penalty. So I'm sure Lando is particularly happy. It's his home Grand Prix. I'm sure he will be crying in the in-lap.
It was contrasting emotions on that in-lap, wasn't it? And on the podium too, like you say, Lando delighted. Oscar very upset about the penalty he got. What was your view of it? Because I don't mind admitting, when I saw it, I actually thought, he's going to get a penalty for that.
You thought he was going to get a penalty?
Yeah, because it was on the restart rather than just on a normal lap behind the safety car.
Look, I'll have to look carefully. We definitely made some observation to the race director. We did report that we thought the safety car was called in relatively late, unnecessarily late, and this might have put Oscar in a little bit of a difficult situation. So I think I would have appreciated if this was discussed after the race, and we could have heard what the driver thought and assess the facts all together. So we'll talk to the FIA. We see if something better was possible.
That's a very fair point, because I also was surprised at how late that call came. But just finally, as you say, how important is this victory for the team? Because, as you mentioned, everyone executed on the pit wall, everyone in the garage, but also the car they've delivered, and it hasn't always then led to a result in the races you've wanted them to. I mean, here you didn't get that win last year when you had the car. So how good is it to do it today?
Well, we have to say that compared to the competitiveness we had last year, this year we have taken definitely a step forward, which makes things easier when you have to make strategic calls, weather calls, like you know that you can rely on a strong machine, even if you don't get things right, which is a good mindset, let's say, to actually make good decisions. But overall, like I said at the start, I think for me, I just feel very grateful to the men and women at McLaren, the quality of the work that everyone has been able to pull off, and there's 1,000 people behind this kind of days, this kind of results. Big thank you to all of them, and half the season so far, and it's been a pretty decent one.
A very decent one. You made a lot of fans out there very happy today. Thank you for your time, Andrea.
Thank you.
Almost understated, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very, very impressive at the moment, McLaren. There's no question.
I like the fact that he's so grateful too.
Yeah. And there is something really quite refreshing, and when you go back to the dour days of Alonso saying this is a GP2 car, talk about how McLaren's approach and their sort of demeanour as a team. Never mind, two guys going for the championship, two young guys, but willing to be smart enough to race each other smart.
And both so good that they're not, they're not. It's not egos right now.
Not at the moment, no.
But they're both ego worthy, is what I'm getting at.
Oh yeah, and very different. I love their personalities. It's so different.
All right, I hear Chris. Chris, connection check.
Mic check 1 2.
We got you. You must be on Wi-Fi, baby.
You know it. I'm back outside Aston Martin, where I can stand in the sunshine for a little bit as well. So,
what is this you speak
giving
of?
them their credit. I know.
Sunshine?
Well, it won't be for long. Yeah, I can see the gaps. Genuinely, there's beautiful blue sky and sunshine, but then just to the left, a really dark cloud. So I don't think it's going to always stay this way. But this was the forecast for it to clear up. And as everyone would have heard in that corner interview, which I believe we played out.
Yeah, we did.
So in that one, he said, the forecast was that we weren't going to have a wet race like yesterday. That was much more rain than was expected. So, yeah, it's coming good now, at least. And, there's some varying emotions in the paddock, is the word. As I'm watching two police dogs currently being branded with Aston Martin hats. So two stars of the show here doing a photo shoot Aston Martin. Sorry, that's what all the noise is in the background.
Hey, Chris, speaking of stars of the show, Nico Hulkenberg, you caught up with his boss a few minutes ago, didn't you?
I did, for a whole 60 seconds. I managed to. Sorry, you've lost me now. I'm playing with a dog. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
Well, we'll
careful, they bite.
Well, while you play with the dogs, we'll play out the interview you just caught up with.
What do you think of the race? No, just sniffed the mic. Didn't get a. I've been warned to eat the microphone, so not a fan. Not a fan of the mic.
If he'd have barked, you'd have gotten a bonus.
That'd have been
their favourite corner is the dog leg.
Right,
yeah, dog leg.
Oh, come on, Johnny Green.
I know. I can do better.
That was a rough joke.
Oh, bark it out.
It's not Father's Day. You can't do dad jokes. All right, well, let's hear this interview you did, Chris, with Jonathan Wheatley, the boss of the Stake F1 team.
I've got Jonathan Wheatley here for as long as I can walk him, so slow him down. But no slow pace from Sauber today or Nico Hulkenberg, third place. How does that feel?
I'm just so pleased for Nico. He drove a masterclass today from start to finish, didn't put a wheel wrong. It's the most overdue podium in the history of Formula One, I think, and he showed his true class today.
And how well have you been performing as well as a team? Because you've talked about it recently about executing, and the opportunities were there today, but you took full advantage.
Yeah, I was encouraged by the team's performance today. We're having the right conversations. You know, we've changed a little bit how we approach our racing and what we do and when, and the conversations that we have and when, and the information that we take on board. And I was so pleased that we executed. I think we boxed the right time from the Intis to the dry tyre.
I was going to say, how crucial was that call?
Yeah, it was absolutely crucial, you know, and it gave us the distance to Lewis that I think we'd have been in trouble if we'd have boxed at the same time. So look, great team performance again, but I keep talking about it, but we're gaining momentum. We're pretty realistic. It's not going to be this every week. Nice to see you.
You too, thank you.
Again, humble, but in a guarded way. They know that one flower don't make a summer type thing.
He's such an interesting
guy.
Wheatley is. I've not really listened to him much when he was at Red Bull. I guess he didn't really have the opportunity. But
and I would argue that the pressure. I mean, if we consider Cadillac and Audi's entry into Formula One, the pressure is surely on Wheatley and the boys, because Audi's history I'm not the Cadillacs is bad either, but just Audi's history in motor racing, full stop, especially from sports cars.
WEC,
for sure.
It's
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, the difference here, though, is that Audi is moving into an existing operation already structured as a team.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Cadillac is building from scratch, which is a whole different thing altogether. But Jonathan Wheatley used to do Red Bull car walk-arounds with Steve Matchett back in our Speed Vision days. He's a very fatherly kind of guy, very almost soft-spoken. As I was listening to him, I thought, is that the kind of tone that you want from the team boss? And maybe it is, maybe, if somebody messes something up, he can put a hand on the shoulder and say something that, will help. Can he be fiery when he needs to be? Time will tell.
I think he can. I've heard a little bit of that. But, hey, Bob, this is a weird coincidence. You just mentioned Speed Vision, because I've been communicating with someone on Twitter. Their Twitter handle is the historian about not to be Adam Seth Moss. They said someone should tell Bob that when he did his Speed Channel sign-off of F1, he highlighted Nico Hulkenberg as an up-and-coming driver back in 2012.
Well, there you are.
See?
And ironically, 2012 was the last time Sauber had a podium.
Yeah.
Wow. What? Okay.
Yep. Kobayashi.
There we go. The stars are aligning.
Accept all the kudos.
Japan.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, after that, I'm going to have to take a break. And we're going to have to take a break. You're listening to Speed City F1, back after these messages. Oh, Chris, he just sent in a picture of the dog. You got to put that up, Casey. Picture of the dogs with the SCB mic. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Absolutely staring at me in this microphone for a while there. So I think it's the Reds mic cover. So I did get a couple of photos.
It's like a bull.
Still is now, like trying to pay attention. Yeah, there's another one. I'll send you the next one as well I took, just while Bob was chatting.
Got some new voices in YouTube. Chase Varsha.
That's my son.
I saw Chase, and I said, he says, go McLaren. There you go. And
there you go.
Welcome,
done,
Chase. Well done. Nice.
Yeah. Welcome, family.
Yeah, absolutely. Sophie.
Yeah. I think my wife, who's watching in the bedroom, probably called all of our kids and said, go ahead and watch. We want to pick up new viewers.
Yeah, there you go. Sophie says that, where did she go? I've lost her, but I think she was saying that that Colapinto should be dropped or is about to be dropped.
Yeah.
There it is. Swap out Colapinto.
There's going to be a lot of that.
Yeah.
Well, did anyone see what happened to him today? I must admit, he didn't.
Gearbox.
No,
he came in.
We never saw it.
Gearbox problem.
He came in literally lap one with a
second
gearbox.
gear. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. Well, in that sense, that's not his fault.
No.
So that's obviously
that's
the
true.
changeover they've done.
Yeah.
And
what's your take,
did
Chris?
something wrong.
Do you think Flavio is going to inject some change?
Potentially, yes. Actually, the noises I had a few races ago were that he won't be afraid to.
No.
And it just depends who they can get and the way they'll go with it.
You send in a comment.
There's a lot of opportunities for Paul Aaron, obviously in cars at the moment.
Okay.
But with those lined up, that suggests he won't go straight in. They're giving him these FPs. So the flip side then is, do you go for someone like Bottas?
Here we
or
go.
Who else might be available?
I'm George Russell, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Right now, with zero commitment, try Oracle Cloud Infrastructure for free. Head to oracle.com/formula. That's oracle.com/formula. All right, gentlemen, we've got just about 10 minutes left. And Chris, you haven't had much mic time because we had a bad connection. Any thoughts or any other summaries? Epiphanies? There you go.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we've played out the Stella interview that I sent over.
Yes.
But I got Andreas Stella, the McLaren team principal, and yeah, he seemed a bit surprised when I suggested I think that was a penalty for Oscar. But I've not yet met anyone else who disagrees with that, to be honest. Certainly in this paddock. Now, you could say it's a biased paddock because it's a British Grand Prix paddock with a British winner, but I do think most of them are pretty fair judges of stuff. And yeah, I'm actually... I can understand Piastri's disappointment, but as I was saying just before I first dropped off, I think he'll look back on that and see why it was a penalty. Even if he still doesn't fully agree with it, he won't be quite so angry. Yeah. But in terms of other epiphanies, I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunities this weekend. When someone like Hulkenberg brilliantly takes his chance and gets a podium like that, that tells you that there was a lot on the table. And the reason right now I'm actually getting Wi-Fi from Aston Martin is I want to come down here because I thought they made a brilliant strategic call early in that race where Stroll was running pretty well, but there was the period of the race where it was going to be dry for maybe 15 minutes. So everyone else was going to hold on for potential rain. So they switched to the soft tyre and thought, let's go for a blast. Let's go for a fast stint here when it's dry enough for slicks on the softs, see what we can get out of it. And then everyone's going to have to pit for inters anyway. It's exactly how it played out. And he was running third at the end of it. And I just feel like maybe they lacked the pace in the car, the inherent pace compared to the Sauber. But also then both drivers you saw lose a place on the final lap that showed they were struggling at the end. But you do see when certain teams, they operate so well. And that brings me round to the team in red. Because at the same time, you saw Aston Martin take their chance and put the two cars in the points in the fight, even with Alonso actually complaining a little bit. But you looked at Ferrari and they had Lewis Hamilton at the time down in 7th and 8th and 9th. And Charles Leclerc well outside the points where he finished, I believe.
Can somebody explain what Leclerc's plan was? Because I didn't understand it at all. He was nowhere.
I didn't either. I really didn't. I just think they jump too soon sometimes, Ferrari. They kind of... It's weird. We don't always sort of say that that's a problem that Ferrari make. We think, with some of the discussions we've had, we've actually heard where they drag things out and they're talking along for too long. And they're not making a decision. And Lewis Hamilton was unhappy about that, wasn't he, in Miami? Well, when it's wet like this, I feel like they jump the gun and they think, we've got to do something quickly, we've got to do it early. And they almost panic their decisions. And it rarely goes well. It happened here, I think it was last year, actually. They got it wrong. Certainly the year before as well, I think they didn't time things very well. So I know Carlos Sainz had a win here. But aside from that, I remember Ferrari decisions going badly in changeable conditions at Silverstone. And they don't seem to have learned on that front. So anyone who listened to our show last week, and I read out a sign that was being held up in the on the grid outside the Ferrari garage in the pit lane that said, Ferrari strategy team, we believe in you, kind of. Well, they got kind of proven right, weren't they?
Right. When you do good. But in fairness to Charles Leclerc, he was in a big battle with Pierre Gasly, I believe, for a long time. So he may have lost time there.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, your point is well taken.
Yeah. Hey, here's a good stat for you guys. I have no idea if this is confirmed or denied, but in the last 4 Grand Prix, Hulkenberg 31 points, Verstappen 29.
That's a good. I like that.
All right, take that, Dutchman.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm just checking on Twitter, X, whatever you call it.
Yeah, that is right. I can add that up quickly, can't I? Because it's 10 for 5th today. He got 18 for 2nd in Canada, so that's 28, and then only 1 point finishing 10th for this penalty in Spain, so that's 29, and retired last time out in Austria. So Hulkenberg's for the title. Is that what we're saying?
Could be.
Hulkenberg has a shot.
Hey, Chris,
I've got some stats actually about Hulkenberg.
Yeah, go ahead.
So obviously ended the longest career in F1 history before scoring a first podium finish streak. So that's a record he'll hold for a long time. But he, the first podium for Sauber since 2012 in Japan, which was Kamui Kobayashi. First German to finish on the podium since Sebastian Vettel, 2021 Azerbaijan Grand Prix. But this last one, right? Actually, there's two. One is he started 19th, so the lowest ever starting position for a podium finisher in Sauber's history.
Wow.
That's in 32 years. And he's also the oldest first-time podium finisher at 37 years old since George Follmer, who was 39 at the 1973 Spanish Grand Prix. So anyone who's been digging out the age stats for the F1 movie, one for the old timers today.
Yeah, definitely.
I have one of those. The George Foreman girl. They're great.
No, that's not him.
No,
George Foreman.
That's a different one.
Boxer.
Follmer.
George Follmer was an American.
He was.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trans Am
First
champion.
Can-Am champion.
There you go.
Substituted for Mark Donohue with Roger Penske's, Porsche Panzer, all conquering.
Don't mess with us old
Can-Am
guys.
car.
We know the Follmers of this world.
That's right.
Hey, Chris, the Williams team has tweeted out a video of the dogs, the Red Bull dogs. It looks like they unvelcroed the Red Bull sticker and stuck on their own. But yes, apparently the dogs in the paddock are quite the hit.
Yes, those two that we saw, they were police search dogs. And yeah, they've been sponsored. So Red Bull had a sticker on their harnesses. I saw the Williams one on there as well. They on each when they were stood by me and I was trying to get an interview. But there was two military dogs as well that were here yesterday. And they were both unsponsored and looking for sponsors. So no team seemed to take them under their wing.
Well, no wonder the police dogs are staring at you, Chris. They're police dogs. They know a shifty character when they see one.
Yeah, they took one look at that beard and went, oof.
Well, I hope the teams are supporting those efforts and, paying for the dog food or whatever it is they can do to support law enforcement.
The dog.
I must admit, I'm amazed at the dogs' energy at the end of a long weekend like this because they have been like the talk of the paddock. Every time someone walks by and they see them, they stop and have a fuss. But it's not everywhere we go that we get that. So it's been a nice little addition actually to this one. And what I must say again has been an absolutely heaving paddock, like a brilliant event in that sense. And as you guys mentioned before the show, over half a billion, wasn't it? In terms of the accumulative attendance. 500,000. Come on, get my numbers right. 500,000.
Half a billion? Did you say? That is a huge crowd.
In this day and age.
It's facts, numbers. What does it matter? It's been a long weekend. Over 500,000 over the weekend, which has been remarkable actually. And they were treated to a good one today.
I saw a great tweet by Autosport. They show a picture of Kevin Magnussen in the paddock, in the stake paddock, cheering on Nico Hulkenberg. And then the other half of the picture is when Kevin Magnussen is being interviewed and Hulkenberg walks up.
Oh, that's right.
and says to him,
yeah.
I can't say
you
it.
Can't say it on air, but pretty funny.
Something about doing something to a body part. But anyway, I thought that is the great arc of relationship.
It was dog-like comment, wasn't it?
It was a dog-like comment. Oh, that's great! What a day
was
for
a famous
Hulkenberg.
one.
We're ruining the glorious victory, the first ever for Lando Norris for win at home, and with all this Hulkenberg talk.
Yeah, I think it's worth remembering that this weekend started off with a press conference in which, in fact, it was Crofty who asked the question. How do you pinch yourself being in this era? And having your own grandstand and all this sort of stuff. And Lando sort of waxed rhapsodic about just how special it all is. And, he said, if I can make it a reality and bring these fans something to cheer about, it would be worth every victory I've got. And I'd give it away to get one at Silverstone. So he's done it.
Yeah.
So Lando has a grandstand. Lewis Hamilton has a piece of racetrack. What does George Russell got?
The possibility of having to fight Verstappen next year.
What'd you say, Chris?
I said not a good enough activation team, clearly, because Lando's have taken it and run with it. But George will get there, I believe. But Lando's been very engaging with this fan base, hasn't he?
All right, guys, we are out of time. And none of us got the podium right. Nobody got
it.
I don't think it even, maybe close, but nobody got it right for sure. But thanks to Bob Varsha, Jonathan Green, and Chris Medland. And thanks for everybody for tuning in. Thanks for everybody for contributing to the show. Those you did from YouTube, from social media. But that is why we do all of this, is for you guys, the fans. We didn't take calls this week, but we'll do it soon. And, of course, this coming week, Chris and I will do Wheel to Wheel on Wednesday. And next weekend, of course, we'll be back. Go to our website, speedcitybroadcast.com, to find out all of our shows. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next week.
Happy trails.